the mystical doctor, Saint Teresa de Jesus, Teresa of Avila, who talks of two types of prayer, discursive and contemplative. The discursive is common among, let's say, beginners, and the contemplative more among proficients. And she says that as the soul becomes more seasoned in prayer, it progresses from discursive to contemplative, but it never stops discursive prayer. Why? Because as human beings, being creatures of habit, we sometimes follow the flow of events surrounding us that condition our prayer, and we have to sometimes stop ourselves in our tracks and go back to the well, to where we started, and sometimes pray out loud to call our attention to what we're doing. Because if everything is contemplative, sometimes we can get distracted with that. It's impossible on earth to be continuously in a contemplative state. It's impossible. And God does not want that. Why? Because we have to face trials, struggles, setbacks, interior aridities, desolations, consolations, in order for us to grow. It's like a muscle. The soul is very much like a muscle. In order for the muscle to grow, it needs both resistance and rest. It needs to be strained by opposing forces, and then it needs to recover. If you are always opposing it, you tear down the muscle. If it's always resting, it atrophies. So there has to be a give and take in order for it to grow. Same with the spirit. And that give and take is discursive and contemplative. The discursive is you in the active mode of whether it's intercessory prayer or praying in tongues, praying in praise, praying deliverance. Contemplative is more passive, where now you're receiving. Not so much, let me put it this way, prayer, which includes all types, the four I mentioned, namely tongues, praise, intercession, and liberation or deliverance, and contemplation, is the expression of my will. Worship is the acceptance of God's will. When we contemplate, we worship. So contemplative prayer and discursive prayer have to always be a staple in our lives. I think as we mature, contemplative prayer becomes more prevalent, but we never get completely rid of discursive. And the reason is simple, as I mentioned. We need to sometimes go back to the well and speak out loud to distract ourselves and call ourselves back to what we're doing. Because sometimes when we contemplate, the mind starts to flutter, and we have to focus on what we say and saying some things out loud.